I'm doing a little project today, and I'm trying to organize the back of my truck. The issue that I don't like is that when I have this generator in the back, I can't roll my tonneau back. So if it's raining and it's pouring, not that it's a big deal, because this thing sat outside for 2 years uncovered, and I have a video of that. This generator was given to me. Finally brought it in the workshop and got it going, and the thing runs like a top. It's probably one of the best running pieces of equipment that I own. It literally just starts right up every time. But anyways, I digress. I like to be able to roll my tonneau cover back because I don't really like this, one, being out in the elements, and I don't like people being able to necessarily see it, out of sight, out of mind. These wheels are held on by basically a U-bolt and an axle, and then that'll come off. That'll drop this down about 6 inches if I take off these wheels and take off this bracket right here. This top rail, maybe a 1/2 inch above this side rail here, which is okay. I mean, it would make it a little high in the center of the tonneau cover, but that's okay. Water would always run off it. We don't got a whole lot going on today, so I figured I'd take you along and you guys can do this with me. Hopefully everything doesn't go crashing down too badly. So I've already got this side unbolted. Okay, now we can hopefully get the axle out of there. There's that. And that's exactly how it'll fit in the back of my truck, but up a little bit further. Now we'll see if this fits back in there, which I hope it does. Boy, just barely, huh? Look at that. That is pretty slick. Just like that. Oh yeah, that's awesome. So this tonneau cover has these little cross braces right here, but it just clears the generator. And this one just clears it too. Oh yeah, wow, yes. Oh, this is awesome. This is gonna be great. Yeah, that's gonna work super slick. All right, so a couple projects that I'm gonna work on doing is, well, let me show you. First thing I gotta do is I'm gonna secure a piece of wood across the face of this toolbox right here, probably the width of a 2x4, paint it black to match and put a couple screws in it from behind, because if you're ever loading stuff, a motorcycle, dirt bike, a tank, whatever you want, a refrigerator, this, you always end up banging it into the face of your toolbox, and it always ends up scarring up the face. So if you put a piece of wood on the face, it's sacrificial, then you don't have to worry about it destroying your toolbox, and then your lid will always open too, because something doesn't get pushed up against your lid. So that's one of the first things we're going to do, is put a 2x4 across this all the way. And then the hardware that we took off the generator, the wheels and the other piece, I'm going to just mount those on a angle iron frame that generator will drop into with 2 pins that can go through it. So if you need to make it mobile, it's as easy as literally just dragging it onto that frame, putting 2 pins in it, and it'll work exactly the way it always has. Usually if I'm getting metal, I'm usually having them either deliver it or cut it in half, because they don't charge to cut it in half if they do it once. So, longest is probably going to be is 12 feet. Not being able to slide something under the bed or all the way up could be problematic. So I'm going to build some aluminum risers up under this toolbox, and I put a straight edge across the top so we can get an idea of how high up I can go, because this is where the top of the tonneau cover would be. We're going to raise the toolbox up 3 inches, and then to secure the toolbox, I'm going to use a eye hook here with a turnbuckle that goes back to a tie down in the bed. I'm not into drilling holes down through the bed of this truck. I don't want to do that. And this is another handy tool that I built, and if you want to see how I made it, I'll have links up above, but this is just super awesome for getting in the back of your truck. That way you're not stretching and scratching up the side of your truck. You can just literally stand here comfortably on the side of the truck and get what you need out of the toolbox without, digging up your paint and leaning all over the sides. If you got to get something out that's heavy, it's just easier this way from climbing in and out of the back bed of your truck or leaning over the sides so you're not damaging the paint. I have a video for this if you want to check it out. you guys are not gonna believe what just happened. You guys saw how I had the truck all set up with the toolbox up here, and then the generator was behind it. And then what I did is I took a strap to one of these mounts right here and just across to the other side, because I just went and picked up some of this aluminum so I can lift the toolbox up off the bed of the truck. So my tailgate was open, right? I'm stopped at a stoplight and I go to turn left. So, and there was a bunch of cars coming, there was an opening, so I kind of had to like go. And so I gave it some gas, all of a sudden I hear a crash. I look back, everything is in the road. Toolbox was out of the truck, upside down with the contents all in the road. The generator was upside down in the road. The aluminum wasn't though, that stayed in the truck. Two nice people stopped to help me load all this stuff in the back of the truck. But check this out. This is the hook that the strap was attached to. It broke. If you look down in here, you can see here's the other piece of it. That's the piece that came off right there. So I guess the moral of this story is don't trust these and the one up there if you actually care about what you're hauling, because it did quite a bit of damage considering this toolbox is brand new. It's all scarred up here. You can see it's all scarred up along the front. It's actually dented right here. Scarred up right there on the top corner. Scarred it up pretty hard, dented it there. But I'm really kind of worried about the generator because it took a big hit. Look, the exhaust isn't lined up with that guard anymore. The gas tank is like out of the mount. You can see this little rib all the way across, that's bent. She took a real big hit. I don't know what got bent. I haven't even tried to start this yet. I don't even know if it'll run. You can see how hard it hit. It's all dented right here and over there. Broke some of the bolts off over here, the mounts. Ah, boy, what a mess. I guess the next thing I gotta do is try to salvage what I got here. Oh, and the added bonus was I blew the taillight off the truck. Something must have obviously contacted it here, but yeah, broke the taillights. So I found one on eBay, a used one, because I didn't want one brand new one and then the original one on the other side because they'd be faded. So I found one that was in really good shape, just like this one, off a 2020, and looked just like this. You're only allowed to cry over stuff like this just for a little while, and then you gotta move on. So we're gonna paint this 2x4, this little sacrificial 2x4 piece. And now we're gonna, oh wow, yeah, she's a little bowed out over here too. That's all right though, it's gonna get used. So now we're gonna cut our spacers. You know, I think I'm gonna use this. So I said we could go up 3, and this measures 2.5. We'll need 2 of them. One there, one over there. And we still got to attach the box to not those cleats, but the original factory cleats that are inside the truck. Yep, I'm all done thinking that these are gonna secure something. Yeah, I think the frame's like tweaked that way. But anyways, let's look at it on the bright side, guys, because as I said, we wanted to build that frame or that little cart to hold it anyway. So that's gonna give us an excuse to get this out of the truck and get it back into the workshop so we can get this thing built. Look at that gas tank, oh boy. Sometimes I say if I'm not waking up with some sort of a struggle or an issue or a problem, then I'm just not living. I probably wouldn't feel right if my day went smooth without something interfering with it. Not really, it just seems that way sometimes. So obviously, when this came out of the truck, it slid the whole length, came off the tailgate, and this side is what hit. It basically hit just like this at a 45 on the ground. So that means that pushed that back. So what we can probably do is fasten this right to the table and then come along it forward to straighten it out. It doesn't got to go a lot. It looks worse than I think what it really is. There, like that. There, that's a lot better. Looks like we can loosen this up, push this way, and then that'll make that line up better for the gas tank. Yeah, look at that. Much better. Oh yeah. There it is. There, that's looking better already. Now we got a little bend here that we got to fix. And I can see how that happened because this part of the starter right here clipped onto that because the motor rose up when it was basically upside down and fetched onto that and bent it. Check that out. You can sight right down that. Nice and straight again. Now, if I look at the motor, kind of comparing it to things around it, it looks like it's canted downhill a little bit. Also, judging by this a little bit. Go to the generator side, you can see these little mounts for the back of the generator. You see how this mount is parallel with this mount with a rubber in between? Look at this side. You got this one, but this one's laid way down, which is causing this generator to go this way, which is why that's not lined up. So we're going to take a screwdriver and get right in here and help pry this up to get it back where it should be. And ironically enough, we have to do the same thing on the motor side. Now if you look from side to side, the bottom part of the motor looks very even all along there. And the exhaust is sitting in there much better now. This guard needs to go that way because the guard is attached to the frame, which makes sense because this frame got pushed back that way. So what we're going to do is push the frame this way, square it up, and that'll fix that. And if you want an idea how bent the frame is, not a lot, that much. And I'm hoping that this will allow me to put a come-along on it and stretch it that way. That side's hardly got to go at all. I'm thinking that side over there is probably going to fall into place once we get this where we need it. I'm also going to loosen up a couple things to make pulling this a little bit easier so it's not binding. So one, there's an adjustment here, so I'm just going to back this off a little bit. Do this side as well. Then this guard is attached to this frame, so I'm going to back this off a little bit. Okay. Talk about embarrassing, guys. I was so embarrassed when I did this. Thankfully, like I said, a couple older guys came over and helped me out and got me out of a bind. Here's our setup. So I've got a come along on this side. Hopefully it works. And I've got it attached down to the edge of my table down here. And hopefully I don't knock my teeth out. Wrap this around my line in case it slips. That's moving. Check it out. Yeah, look at the airbox now, guys. See the airbox? That's all nice and even now. So that tells me that frame's getting straight. I'm going to have to over pull it though because it's just going to spring back. Alright, let's see what that does. I've pulled it more than necessary, so let's see. That's pretty decent, but we're going to go one more time. I think that did it. Oh yeah. That's it right there, guys. We did it. See that, guys? Straight edge. Sitting right there, perfectly leaning right against it. Wait till you see the exhaust, guys. That confirms we got it straight, too. Perfect alignment. So we got this thing all nice and straight. You really can't tell, other than this right here. And we're going to fix that right now. This thing lived outside uncovered for 3 years with snow piled up on it and rain and everything else, so doubt we're gonna hurt it. I've got some 2.5 inch by 1/8 inch wall thickness T6 aluminum. And we said we needed to make those 15.5 inches long to fit under the toolbox, and we're going to need 2 of those. It's pouring outside, so I brought the toolbox back in the shop, and those look like those are going to fit good. You know, this isn't the overly rugged toolbox, and I would love to have gotten a weather guard. This one was like $300. A weather guard is like $700. If this was a weather guard box that I just paid $700 for, and it was all damaged up like this, scratched all up, I would probably be sick to my stomach. But this is $300, still a lot of money, but I'm not quite so upset that it has some bruises here and there. Not a big deal, because it is going to get used. You know, it's a work vehicle. You know, I keep my stuff nice, but I'm still working out of it, so it is occasionally going to get damaged here and there, and it's hard for me to justify spending that kind of money on something that's just going to probably get damaged anyways. I'm also using these bonded sealing washers so that if the bed of the truck was to ever fill up with water, for whatever reason, if it was parked on a hill because it has a bed liner, and it was to submerge the bottom of the toolbox, the water won't get up through it because these are sealing washers. Next thing I want to work on is I want to get some wheels back on for this generator to make that base that we talked about. And while we waited, I even installed an hour meter, just which will help me keep track of the maintenance on this. What I'm going to do is cut a couple pieces of angle iron that'll cradle here and here, and then there'll be a pin that holds it. I'm going to use a piece of 4-inch flat bar that goes across. This front leg will weld to the flat bar. This axle will weld to the back section in this area. Then the generator will work and function exactly the way it used to. We'll start by cutting a couple pieces. Looks like 19 inches long. So I've got the angle irons all cut, and it's slid forward just a little extra so I can get my measurement. What I'm going to do is put a piece of 4-inch flat bar, then I'm going to butt weld it here and here, and then actually drill out these holes, because if down the road we ever wanted to bolt this on permanently, we can facilitate it with how I'm going to build it. It'll make more sense here in a second. Now it's time to lay this out, and if you want to see how I built this fixture table, I'll have a link up above and you guys can check it out. But it just makes setting up things so easy, makes them perfect every time. And just like that, without pulling out a tape measure, I know that everything is going to be parallel and perpendicular to one another. Clamps also have a built-in stop that I built. I built these clamps too. You can see it's the same shoulder bolt as the material stop, so I really don't even need to use these here because the clamp itself is its own stop. Maybe it makes a little more sense now, and it's So here's where that 4-inch flat bar went across. So I'm actually gonna mark out these holes, because if down the road at some point you wanted to permanently mount this back on, I'm going to make sure that when I mount this on, that these holes line up with that. And for out back here, I'm going to actually use the original holes where the U-bolts used to go through. Got a coat of paint on it, and you can hopefully see how that's going to work now. These holes here line up to the holes here, which also coincide with the original holes for this bracket to bolt on this front bracket to the generator. So everything is going to go back together. If you ever needed to, you know, put it all back together and keep wheels on it permanently, you just add the 4 bolts here, and you could still put the U-bolts down through over here if you wanted to. But I'm just going to put one of those quick connect pins, which will go through just like this. There'll be another one up here to secure the front. And while that paint is drying, I've been finishing up my toolbox. So I've got this sacrificial piece of wood across the front bolted on. I put a bolt on each end, and then I put a couple screws on the inside to secure this. So now when things get loaded in, you don't have to worry about them smashing up against the cover in the face of this. And to make things a little bit stronger in here, I cut a piece of 3/4 inch thick plywood, and then I painted it, as you can see. And then I put some 1x1 by 1/4 inch aluminum that I fastened to the wood. So these are going to span all the way across onto that, so that floor can't buckle. So now when you load stuff in this, it has a nice secure bottom that's not gonna bow. All right, I got the base on the generator, and rather than do those little hitch pin things that I was telling you about, I just ended up dropping a bolt down through each one, just because it was kind of like tight to get my fingers in. It was just a lot easier to drop a bolt down through. Everything looks all original, and you can see you can just drop the bolts down through there just like I did. The one thing I was thinking about is I've never even started this to see if it runs after it fell out of the truck. So fingers crossed. So last time we used it, we ran it out of gas. And we'll turn on the choke. We'll try it, make sure it puts out power, and see if our new hour meter works. All right, here we go. Oh boy. I got scared, guys. I had the choke going the wrong way. Now I just got to go get a tool and make sure that it puts out power. Check that out, guys. I cleaned it up, sprayed some of this on it. This stuff works awesome. It's called New Bike in a Can, and it smells great too. I wipe all my stuff down with this stuff. It just looks really good, freshens everything up. You can see how nice that looks now, and you just spray it everywhere. Spray it on. You can leave it or you can wipe it, doesn't matter. And the hour meter worked perfect. And I got my toolbox mounted, and I'm super happy how this came out. And that's all stainless steel hardware, so I don't have to worry about anything rusting. And I use those same sealing washers that I use right here. And if I want to take the toolbox out, it makes it super easy, because all you do is just turn this to loosen it. Then it loosens up these clamps, and you just spin off these turnbuckles, and you're home free. And then you can see on the inside, I put a big fender washer. Oh, not a fender washer, but it's a washer that I made. It's pretty good size, the width of my hand. Yeah, it's gonna work super nice, guys. And I trust it too. You know, it's pulling it back towards the cab. Not a whole lot of pressure, but it's snug there, so it's not going to get like a shock load. I think that that's maybe what happened when I had the generator on there. I think maybe the strap loosened up and it had some slack in it. When I went to take off, it had a shock load and it just snapped the hook off. Now, if I get long stuff, I can like slide it up into the cab, and if I'm, you know, hauling anything that's 2 inches or smaller, I can actually slide it in one of these up here to keep it so it doesn't slide around up front. There's one more thing I want to share with you, because I have a whole set of these bits in the workshop. It's what I always use. I've had them for years, but I just picked up this, same company, same holder, and I like it because this is waterproof and it has a gasket. But you know how like when you drill a hole, you start out with a pilot hole, then you progressively work your way up to the hole size? Check these out. You don't do that with these. These ones already have a bit already on the end of it, so it starts your pilot and then it starts drilling. Now, as far as sharpening these, I don't know. I'll have to do some research on this. These aren't cheap. They're fairly expensive, but if it's anything like the other set of these Drill America bits that I have, I'm not worried at all. And what I really like is it has these ground shanks on them, so they don't have a tendency to spin in your drill bit. That's what I use to drill all these holes in this box and do all this fabrication. So just wanted to share those with you. But like I said, they're not cheap, but they last a super long time. And that's all there is to it. And the new taillight should be here Friday. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. If this is something that you like, please don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. New videos every week. See you next Friday. Take care, stay safe, and God bless.